was playing with the virtual backgrounds. They look funny, man.
Oh, you have virtual backgrounds?
Yeah.
Where? On Zoom?
Yeah. So where it says video, you click that little up arrow and you put choose virtual background.
Where it says video.
At the bottom, next to the mute. You see the little up arrow next to it? Click and then choose virtual background.
Oh, shit. Let me see, none.
So now what you have to do, you have to make sure that you put, I have a green screen.
But I don't, it doesn't matter?
No, try to see what yours is gonna look like. Mine looks like this because behind me it's all white. So yours might be the same.
I got that perfect background. Let's get ready to talk a lot of shit. Hello everyone and welcome to the very first episode of Getting Social, a fun educational podcast where we keep it real at all times. I am your host, Jeff Follicard, and today I have the pleasure of introducing a friend of mine, Steeve Joseph. He actually interviewed me a few years back and I wanted to make sure to return the favor, and for him to be my first guest is an honor. Today's show, we'll talk a little bit about financial responsibility and how social distancing in this new era is affecting businesses all over. Without further ado, let's get social.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite.
You're welcome, man. I think you have an idea as to why I chose you as my first guest. But before we even go into that, tell us your name and what you do, and then you can tell me why I chose you as my first guest, in your opinion.
Okay, well, my name is Steeve Joseph, and I'm in the financial services industry, specifically an insurance broker, a life insurance broker. And there's no doubt in my mind that the reason you chose me is because I'm a rock star. I mean, let's just cut to the chase. I mean, that's just why you chose me, okay? So that's my opinion. Yeah, so I'm right. Sure you're going to clarify why and define what rock star means, but that's my opinion.
Well, you are definitely a rock star. I guess the definition might fluctuate depending on who you ask, but I guess in your definition of a rock star, you are one, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
By the way, a big disclaimer here, because our side-by-side screenshot is showing my background with a bunch of toilet paper rolls. I guess it fits the times that we are living in right now. I did not mean for it to stay throughout the entire episode, so maybe I'll just take it off. I was just trying to experiment a little bit and have some fun. This is the very first episode of Getting Social, by the way, so obviously we're experimenting a little bit. But anyway, so Steve, you're absolutely right. You are a rock star, but I'll go a little bit more in detail as to what rock stardom actually means in this exact situation. Right. And in this situation, what it means is that a while back, I think it's 2 years, maybe 3 years ago, you invited me to your show, The Exceptionals, and I was honored to have been considered an exceptional by you, and also by the format of your show, what the show was about. So anyways, tell us a little bit more about The Exceptionals. What was the show about? What are some of the guests that you invited, and why?
I mean, I think the name says it all. And the reason I wanted these specific people on the show is, first of all, is because I know them to be exceptional in their field. For example, you in marketing. I had Cassandra Claude, which is a vocal coach, vocal teacher, also exceptional. I interviewed a journalist, actually interviewer. Her name is Stacy Ike as well. I'm in LA. So the reason I interviewed these people, again, is because I think they're exceptional in their field, and probably nobody really approached them in that sense and making them the interviewee. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to showcase their skill and showcase them to the world, my viewers, whoever was watching. So I thought that was very interesting. Also, George Tandy, R&B singer, I also interviewed him down in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
It was a fun time. Everybody I interviewed, we had a great interview, and I learned a lot, and I hope that they enjoyed their time as well. Clearly, you enjoyed yours.
I did enjoy mine.
So clearly, you enjoyed the interview.
Actually, that's the only episode that I actually watched. It was my own. No, all jokes aside, man, I actually really enjoyed the show. I think one of them you did in LA, actually, right?
Yes, with Stacey Ike.
And I remember the one you did with Tim Hardaway at the gym.
Yes.
I think it was very good, man. I like the fact that it was not the same exact setting every time. I like that.
I like that. Yeah, I wanted that too.
Yeah, I think that's important. Right now, we don't have a choice. Right now, all we have is toilet paper. That's going to be basically the setting, for the entire Getting Social podcast. No, I'm kidding. I'm going to remove this. So maybe. So, no, I had a good time literally watching this, not only because, I have a personal relationship with you and you're a little bit biased when that happens. Sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a bad way. Sometimes, you obviously. But it was mostly in a good way because I was like, man, I really like what he's doing. I like the differences between the different guests that you had. It was not really as specific audience. It was just like really different. And, like you said, they were exceptional in whatever it is that they were doing. And that was fun. And I remember also during that time, what really caught my attention actually is you recording over 600 straight videos, like daily videos.
That was fun.
Daily motivational videos, instructional videos. For 600 what? 600 what? 30? You don't remember exactly?
I think so. Maybe 620, 630, somewhere in there.
626, 630, whatever that number is. That's almost 2 full years of everyday video. And to me, this is why it impresses me. It impresses me because not only of the consistency. I tried to do something like this back in the day called the 516 experiment, and it was just an experiment about documenting basically my morning routine and how important it is to achieve success by developing a strong routine. And it starts in the morning with the things that you do in the morning. So I did 516 because 16 is actually my lucky number. And I watched some of those episodes maybe a year or two afterwards, and to me they were like very, very bad. Like it was just literally just rambling about things. There was no structure, and it wasn't every day. So it was every weekday, but I had some days that I skipped anyway. So seeing you doing it for 600 plus days, and not only that, all of them good messages, motivational, educational, great presentation. Obviously, you got better. You weren't as good in the beginning, but it also develops a new skill. And that's something that's super valuable. And in today's times, because of what's going on now, we already know that those type of skills are gonna really, really shine through now, because you're gonna have to communicate behind a screen very often. In my opinion, I think a lot of marketers are predicting this now. Storytelling, interviewing, podcasts, videos, all those type of things are going to happen a lot because we're not going to network as much. We're not going to go to trade shows or conferences that much. So we're going to have to find ways in order for us to communicate. So for me, that was impressive, and I want to hear about what really motivated you to do those videos.
Well, something you said that was very important. This is how it started. It was all about consistency. I wanted to prove to myself that I could be consistent. But if I had a bunch of people holding me accountable, then they would add a different kind of pressure, a different kind of level. So this is how it started. It didn't start out as I wanted to motivate people or anything. That's not how it started. I wanted to make sure I'm consistent. And I just started recording in my car. And next thing you know, I said I was going to do it. I started in April, and I said I'm going to do it until December of that year. And I think that was maybe 2017, maybe.
Okay.
And between April and December, it's just it built an audience. It was great. People were telling me that they like the videos, to keep doing the videos. It helps them a lot. So when December came, I just decided to keep going, and that's really it got a life of its own. And I was really talking about mindset and goals. Really, that's what it came. That's what it came to, mindset and goals. And I mean, I know this is something that we struggle with every day, mixed with the fact that I wanted to be consistent. So it made the perfect match. So I just kept going. And like you said, I definitely got better, because I remember watching my first video. I call it Agent Zero, Project Zero. Man, I was like, what is this? What is this? This is me? No, man, definitely not. This is me. But like you said, because I kept going, I definitely got better.
No, I honestly, man, not because we're friends, and it's not because I'm biased. I was a fan, man. I loved it. I even got your hat. Be exceptional.
Yes.
I wore the hat like with pride. I still have the hat. I don't mess it. I don't like work out with it or anything like that. I keep it clean and nice. I even went to like networking in my BNI chapter. I was president of the chapter, so I presented every Tuesday. And I wore the hat once just to make a statement. You know what I mean? To be exceptional.
I like that.
And I love the entire process, the branding. Be exceptional. I think it brought out. It brought out this feeling about wanting to be the best version of yourself, which is what you also get by watching your videos. And that leads me to the next question, actually, because for me, this is entrepreneurial type behavior, right? If you're able to consistently do something over and over again to achieve a higher long-term goal, this is what entrepreneurs do. It really never ends. So that showed me your entrepreneurial spirit, and I enjoyed that. I respect that, and that leads me to your next question. Tell us a little bit more about that entrepreneurial spirit, and tell us about some of the things that you are working on now.
So Jeff, I'm going to ask you a question. When you were younger, did you feel this thing that that you wanted to do something different, that you didn't want to do what everybody else is doing? Whatever that, did you ever have that feeling as you were growing up, or as you were going through maybe as later as your marketing program? Did you ever have that feeling that you want to do something different?
Well, I don't know if I had a specific feeling or moment where I recognized a specific feeling of doing that. I think it was always part of my personality to be more of the outlier, not really be part of the pack. I don't think I had a thought process behind it. I think it came naturally, for real. Like, I think the music side of me, as being an artist, in the beginning, very young, I was able to express myself in different ways. Some people would appreciate and understand. Some people would not appreciate and not understand and not care, which is, that's how it is, and it's fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's most people are not able to express themselves that way. So I feel like when you're able to express yourself in a certain way, and I think actually entrepreneurs are actually also artists. They express themselves in a different way.
Yes.
And it comes with the territory where you're gonna be singled out. To trying to detach yourself is one thing, but naturally being detached is something else. I think naturally, like I joke around. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, obviously, but the social distancing thing is actually natural to me. Like I've been practicing this for a long time. I'm a loner. I'm a homebody. People don't get that when they see me, let's say, on stage and performing, when I used to do that, because that's like maybe my alter ego, the sociable person. And also in my networking and in everything that I do, actually, I do it in a way where I'm pretty sociable. People kind of relate, but by myself or when I'm removed from the public, I am literally removed from the public. So to answer your question, yeah, I didn't have a specific feeling or moment where I realized it was just a natural thing for me.
Okay. Yeah, and that exactly what I'm talking about. I think one of the things that entrepreneurs have is like you said, it might be natural, or maybe you realize it later in life, but you just know that you want to do something and you want to do it your way. You don't want to listen to what other people are saying, even though some people might discourage you. There's something inside of you that you need to try. You don't know whether or not you're going to fail, but you just have to try it. And I definitely think I realized that when I was younger, I just never did anything about it. And I've always been trying things, but never followed through, which is why I came up with this whole, I had to do this thing to prove to myself I can be consistent.
Wow. That's badass, man. Much respect for that. That's important. And I'm trying to do the same thing, and I know that the consistency part is the hardest part.
Yes.
And
absolutely, man.
Yeah. So talk about the elephant in the room now, which is obviously this pandemic. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's this pandemic that's been going on, and a lot of people have many different opinions about it. I want to know from you, based on your recent entrepreneurial projects, I know there's a few that you're working on. How has this pandemic affected your progress? What has changed before, like pre-pandemic and versus post-pandemic?
Well, first thing, pre-pandemic, especially in my industry, there's a lot of networking, which you can relate as well. And there's a lot of face-to-face meetings, a lot of one-on-one meetings. So that definitely has changed. So more webinars now, and if documents needs to be signed, we send them online, you e-sign and you send them back. So right then and there, that's the first effect. Right then you feel it. So less commute, more behind the screen talk.
So a lot has changed. So the social distancing, I think we were talking about this behind the scenes before we started the interview. Social distancing is going to change the way we interact business. You already mentioned the benefits, which are, less commute, more efficient, even the signing of documents. I'm not going to go and have coffee, drive 30, 45 minutes to have coffee, to have an introduction to someone. I do believe that it holds its weight. That's why us as human beings, we like the interaction. We like the physical interaction. That's going to be very hard to replace. And I also enjoy that. But also efficiency wise, if you're going to spend almost half of your day, because it's going to take you 45 minutes to go, 45 minutes to come back, parking, stuff like that, that's already an hour and a half, and then maybe the meeting is an hour. That's like 2.5 hours, right, just for a meeting. But now we're having a meeting now where we're seeing each other through Zoom, and I've had a lot of Zoom meetings in the past 3 weeks, that's for sure. And like you said, the documents are going to be able to be signed electronically. So I guess my question is, what is your perspective in terms of social distancing, and how will it affect the business world, especially you having to interact with people in order to do what you do? And speaking of that, I don't think you clearly explained what it is that actually you do. So let's start with that.
Well, I'm an insurance broker. So I help people find out what the best option is if they're looking for life insurance, because obviously there's different kind of life insurances and there's different kind of annuities. So I help people based on their situation, based on what they're looking for. I help them better understand their choices. And if they decide they want to invest in either a life insurance policy, whichever kind, or an annuity, I can help them and we make it happen.
Okay. And
I'm independent. I'm independent. So I don't work with just one company. So I present the client to different companies instead of presenting one company to the client. So we make sure it's tailor-made to your situation, because it's not one size fits all. And once we find out what it is, if you like the solution, the financial solution, we go for it.
All right. So speaking of financial solutions, I think a lot of people now are, they're in very challenging, just call it challenging situations right now,
Yes.
financially.
Yes.
Not knowing if they're going to be employed. Some of them, actually 10 million of them, according to the numbers that I see, if they're accurate, are saying that they're out of a job in the span of the 3 weeks. So I know there's a lot of rules and regulations of things that you can say and things you cannot say, but based on what obviously that you can say, is there anything any piece of advice you could, give us in terms of like how to approach this financially?
Yes, I think now is the perfect time. Like you said, challenging is the word. But throughout this challenge, now is the perfect time for people to start focusing more on what it means to have a financial plan. Not everybody wants to be a millionaire, which is fine. But if that's in your plan, that's great that you want to be a millionaire, but how are you going to get there? And if you don't want to be a millionaire, what kind of financial security do you have for the future? This is the time, if you're going through a challenge now, this is definitely the time to think about it. And one of the quotes, when I first heard it, I think I told you that quote the other day. One of the quotes is, never waste a good crisis. And that's a very important quote, because although we are going through a crisis right now, I have no idea. I don't even remember where I read it. Actually, I think it was on one of my Zoom meetings. Somebody said it on one of the meetings. So I have no idea who said it. And although we are going through a crisis, and this is very serious, a lot of people are going to be affected and infected. This is the time to lay out a plan. Think about the financial security of your future. What happens if something similar happens again, or where you can go to work or you lose your job? What is going to happen? How are you going to take care of it? This is the time to lay out the plan, and that's my advice. Definitely look for a financial plan. Have a number in mind. What do you want your number to be that will make you feel financially secure, and how do you get to that number? Action plan. How do you get to that number? Hoping and wishing is not a strategy. I know a lot of people like to use that strategy, but hoping and wishing is not a strategy.
No.
Have a number.
It's not even a goal.
How do you get to that number?
Because, like they say, it's not pretty
when you're not ready. Not pretty when you're not ready, man.
Pretty when you're not ready, man.
Unfortunately, a lot of people are actually going through it right now. They realize that they were not ready.
Now, most Americans, most people all over the world actually are not ready to face a situation like this. In almost any way, financially, emotionally, socially, in any way. We're not ready. We were not prepared for something like this. But there were a lot of warning signs too. I mean, we chose not to look at them, but they're here. This is not the first time this is happening. This is probably gonna be one of the hardest hurdles to overcome. And I guess maybe say it again.
No, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I have a feeling it's going to change a lot of how we interact as human beings. I don't know. My kids will probably grow up in a much different world than I did. That's for sure.
Yes.
And their kids, I don't even know in what world they will grow up in. This is. Anyway, I'm not going to get too deep into this whole thing. It's all speculation for now. All we know is like maybe by tomorrow, everything is solved and it magically disappears, right? Now, being a financial guy, how do you think it will impact our spending habits and what we've realized in the past, 20 plus days that we probably have been spending, overspending in so many other ways?
In the United States specifically, we've always been a consuming society. And this pandemic is making us realize how much of a consuming society we've been.
Wow, yeah.
Because there's a lot of things that we've spent our money on that we cannot spend it on anymore.
Yep.
So all the stuff that we used to go out to, like you said, the commute for sure is going to be affected. I think a lot of people are going to realize how many face-to-face meetings are not necessary. Face-to-face meetings are still important, but a lot of them, we didn't really have to meet face-to-face. We could have done what we're doing now. So a lot of money on gas, and while you're always out in the street commuting, you start spending money on food. You start going to the grocery store even more. We haven't had happy hours in a long time since this whole thing started. All these happy hours,
Hey, listen, there's a few other things like for even like deodorant, for example. I don't use as much deodorant now. I mean, I'll just maybe a little bit sometimes. You know what I mean? My dry cleaning bill, there's no dry cleaning anymore. I mean, you don't need, you don't really go out to meetings anymore that much. So there's no really laundry. There's less laundry, and I've learned to be more efficient. Actually, I have just a few shirts that I put there and I wear the same, and I think it saves me time too, man. I'm not gonna go and try to look and match. I know you're a pretty boy and everything, but you do it naturally.
Nothing about the crisis said I can't look good.
Yeah, nothing about the crisis says you can't look good. I agree with that. So, what's next, man? Talk about what's next for you. What do you have planned, and that extra time that I guess some of us, or hopefully most of us, have. What have you done with it? Is it to grow your current business? Is it to maybe start a new business? Is it to reevaluate a few things? What's new? What's going on?
Everything that you just said, actually.
So I answered my own question?
Yeah, exactly. Reevaluate, start something new, and I'm definitely embracing this whole virtual meaning, e-signatures and all that stuff. It's definitely because traditionally in the insurance industry, it's more of a face-to-face business. Now, some people always did it over the phone or always did it online virtually, but traditionally it's been a face-to-face business. So I'm definitely embracing this virtual, because a lot like you, a lot of times I like to regroup, be away from the public, and that's fine with me. That's okay with me. So now sending all these meeting links, again, traditional industry, you go to a meeting, the person's not there, even though the person swore on their life and their mom's life that they were gonna be at the meeting, you show up and all of a sudden they don't show up. So now if they don't show up to the Zoom meeting, on to the next one. Like you said, we're not wasting 45 minutes driving somewhere to a no-show.
Yep.
So definitely reevaluating that in the business. And now I don't know if it's something new, but don't call it a comeback.
Uh-oh.
One of the things that actually aggravates me and frustrates me in the industry is when I see new parents who are not financially ready for the kid once the kid arrives, or even before the kid arrives, especially being in the insurance industry. So a few years ago, I came up with this thing to have them think, because they get bombarded with so much information, new parents this and new parents that, so they have so many things coming at them at the same time. I wanted to see how I can approach parents a better way that would make sense, and also talk about making sure that they have life insurance in their lives. So I came up with something called Next Diaper. And in my mind, it was a genius idea, but I didn't follow through on it. So I stopped doing it, and I reevaluated it. I'm working out some kinks, and I'm definitely making a comeback with Next Diaper. And I think we're going to make a great partnership, which we tried before. And that's all I'm going to say about Next Diaper. Just watch out for Next Diaper. And I'm looking forward to working with you on this one.
I was hoping that you would bring this back, because you know how much I really like that idea. I think it's an amazing idea. I think that, one thing that's not going to stop is making babies. That's an industry that is not going to stop, So I think you have something special there. I think, overall, as a parent myself, when I was a new parent, 5 and plus years ago, I I had no idea. I was like, man, I started my business, blah blah blah. But I think
that's the last thing on your mind as a new parent.
Yeah.
Because you're thinking about the room and the diapers and the milk you got to buy, the doctor's appointment. There's so many things coming at you. So that's not one of the things that you think about. So that's why that's how I came up with this idea, because you need the diapers anyway.
You need the diapers, that's for sure. Well, so you've been using this time to reevaluate some of the things, right? And reposition yourself. Absolutely. And I think it's a great idea. I think it's a winner. I'm looking forward to inviting you again so you can talk about the success of the next diaper project. Whether it's this year or later, maybe next year or whatever, however long. I know it takes time, but I'm sure we'll have other conversations about it. Myself, actually, I used some of that time to start the podcast, because this year was my goal to start the podcast in the first quarter. So now we're officially a few days into the second quarter. And it was very hard for me to kind of really put this thing together. And I had 3 or 4 different titles, as you know. I ran them by you, of what my podcast was going to be about. But I think recently, because of all the things that are happening, Getting Social was, to me, made more sense. And the new way of getting social is interesting to me, because I had a talk with a friend of mine earlier today, and he was like, well, to him, the new generation is not really going to feel this because they were already getting social behind a screen. You go and you see teenagers at a dinner party or whatever, and everybody's on their cell phones. Sometimes they're texting each other from across the table. It's like, what is this? Like, and I've even seen older generations in their early 20s and 30s do the same thing. Like, you're at a public. I've caught myself doing it. Everybody's doing it. You're in public, and then you're scrolling your Instagram feed. And not really doing anything. Right. So I think it's inevitable that we probably will spend even more time in front of our phones. The phone has everything now. The phone does everything. I'm recording this podcast through my phone. Oh, yeah, it is still recording. Let me make sure this. Yes. All right, cool. So, by the way, so this podcast is also not only a podcast, but also video. So you'll be able to see that on YouTube. So if people are listening and wondering why we're talking so much about, backgrounds and recording video and stuff like that, it's because we're also going to have a video format. So anyway, I wanted to take this time here at the end to tell everyone about Getting Social and what it's about. And what it's about is actually talking to a lot of people right now in different industries and interviewing them about the challenges that they're facing now in today's times, and how they plan on overcoming those challenges. What is their game plan? Because we're basically at war. It's a different type of war, but it's kind of like warlike. If you think about it, going to the grocery store is a mission. Put masks, yes. Put gloves, and one person can go. When they come in, remove your shoes, your clothes, spray everything in the car, blah, blah, blah. Spray even the stuff that you get at the supermarket to make sure that nobody had touched it, that was infected before you touch it. And it feels weird, and my kids are not seeing any other kid right now. I'm lucky that both of my kids love each other and are so close in age and get along with each other. They're each other's best friends, and I'm lucky for that. Imagine the kids that maybe don't have a sibling, or maybe they don't get along as siblings, or kids that are in a household where the parents are not getting along and are fighting all the time and being violent with each other. I don't want to be dark or anything, but these are some of the things that I think about. There are some households right now that people are faced to be locked into a house for weeks at a time in a terrible environment. And these are some that's a reality, and these are some of the things that I'm going to openly talk about. I say that in my mission that I want to say what's on my mind. I'm not looking to be politically correct about anything. My views about whatever politics, religion, about all the stuff, this type of stuff, I will say freely and openly. I think it's important to stand your ground, or whatever it is that you feel that you believe in. It's okay. It's okay to express it, whether it's popular or not. And we spoke about that earlier in the show, and that's part of the outlier in me also, not necessarily wanting to conform to the rules that were set for me. And you can create your own rules. Obviously, they're based on respecting each other, loving each other, and all that kind of stuff. As long as you're doing that, I think it's within the rules. So anyway, that's what the podcast is going to be, and I thank you once again for being the first guest, or as I like to call. I actually labeled you as guinea pig. But nah, you're much more than that, man. I actually have a few other people that are lined up, and I'm grateful for that to interview.
Looking forward to
but
this.
I wanted to make sure that you're the first one, man. So
thank you, man. I'm definitely looking forward to the development of Getting Social.
Yes, sir.
I know you have some fun guests, some fun interviews.
Yes, sir.
I mean, unlike you, I will listen to all the podcasts.
I have one final question for you. So it's twofold. You're gonna tell me the first thing you do every morning when you wake up. You're gonna tell me what you did pre-pandemic and what you're doing now post-pandemic, or I guess during pandemic, if there's any difference.
Okay, so the first thing I do actually is turn off my alarm. That's the first thing I do. I put a specific time. So I usually wake up between 5 and 5:30. So that's one thing that changed. I don't wake up anymore between 5 and 5:30. I probably would wake up closer to maybe 6:30. So that's one thing that changed, because obviously I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And I still do the same thing. I make sure I get, even if it's 10 push-ups, it's not anything crazy, but some kind of exercise, just get my blood going.
Yep.
And even if it's just 10 push-ups, or even if it's just a couple of body squats, nothing crazy, just to get my blood going, and then I start the day.
Okay.
I think most importantly is also what you do before you go to sleep, so you don't wake up in like a chaos or chaotic mood. What do you do before you go to sleep? Is your day ready before you go to sleep? So you already know, okay, I'm going to do this when I wake up. This is what my day is going to look like. Obviously, with this thing going on, it might be different, but I think people still have to adhere to something, some kind of plan or discipline, some kind to just keep you going, so you don't go crazy, wondering what you're going to do with your day. I definitely believe that as we go through this crisis, this is the time that you can, anybody can just find out how to be better. Coming out of this, just be stronger, better, but this is the time really to work on ourselves. This has given us time to do, like you said, to do all these things that maybe we wanted to do. We never had the quote unquote time to do it. I mean, this is it. This is it.
This is it. I agree 100%. So, yeah, man. I guess I was gonna ask you for the last word, but that's it. You said this is it. I don't think there's any last word that would top that. But to your point, let's try to all get something out of this and get out of that as a better person. It starts with the man in the mirror. Absolutely. Look at yourself, see what you can improve. And as we improve ourselves individually, we improve the world. That's the first thing you could do. Improve yourself. Are you doing, the things that you want other people to do? And that's where it starts.
Absolutely.
So, Steve, thanks again, man.
Thank you very much for the invite. Great time as usual.
Yes, sir.
Hey.
Thank you guys for watching.